Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As many as 50 million people in the US have an autoimmune disease, making it the third most prevalent disease category, surpassed only by cancer and heart disease. Nearly 80% of people with a chronic autoimmune condition are women. While autoimmune disease is increasingly common, getting diagnosed with one can be lonely and scary. Not to mention, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet for people to read, and diagnosing an autoimmune disease can be challenging for some practitioners too. All of these factors can have an adverse effect on your mental health and overall wellness. That's why we're so glad to chat on IG Live today with Nicole Ritter, a board-certified holistic health practitioner and founder of Ritter Functional Health. So during this live, we're going to discuss things you should do when you are diagnosed with autoimmune disease, the role of environmental factors in autoimmunity, the role of blood sugar and diet, and much more. I saw Nicole. You are. Hello, hi, Nicole.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Same. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Of course, you're welcome.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you decide to become a functional health nutritionist.
Yeah, so my name's Nicole. I actually was raised by doctors. I was very much in the medical world growing up. My grandparents are doctors, my dad's a surgeon. And I didn't even know functional medicine or holistic health was a thing until about 2017. So I got really sick. I had mold illness, I had sinus infections, migraines, depression, anxiety, got every sickness under the sun, was diagnosed with PCOS. And doctors couldn't help me. I was on a lot of different medication. And I heard a podcast about functional medicine. And I was like, what the heck is this? I can do this as a job. Like, this can help me. This is holistic without medication. So I went on to get certified, then board certified. And then I started my company. And we have actually Nikki Smith is my lead practitioner. She just joined us. She's incredible. We have a team of incredible holistic health practitioners. Nikki will be a doctor of clinical nutrition. She has her master's now, but really brilliant minds I get to work with on a daily basis. And me being sick brought me to this incredible place.
That is so cool. Talking about functional health, what does the functional health mean to you? Why is it so beneficial especially for a person who wants to prevent or may already have autoimmune disease?
Yeah, so functional health or holistic health, we really look at the whole body. You aren't just your head, you're not just your anxiety, you're not just your autoimmune disease. Everything happens for a reason and everything happens together, right? So we don't isolate symptoms in holistic health or functional medicine. We look at the body as a whole and we look at the root causes. So when you get diagnosed with whatever it is, whether it be an autoimmune disease or PCOS or ADHD, we look at the factors that could actually cause you to get that diagnosis. And then we help bring the body back into balance and ease symptoms. And we've even seen some remission of some incurable things, which is so cool.
That's amazing. We also believe in functional health and holistic health. So just out of curiosity, I know we didn't prepare this question. Considering you have a whole family of a traditional, doctors, what did they think of you practicing functional health?
At first, I think everyone was a little weird about it at first, but now they're all my clients. My grandparents have passed. That is part of my story as well. They both passed from ALS, the non-genetic one. So there's, I think it's called sporadic ALS. And when they passed, it was before I knew what functional medicine was. And I believe, or I think that mold and environmental toxins played a big role in their development of ALS. So yeah, my dad's a client. We have doctors that refer us. I've had doctor clients. I have nurse practitioner clients. We've worked with a lot of people in the medical field. And it's cool because it's when we can work together,
Yes.
the client gets better, right? It shouldn't be this battle of like functional medicine versus regular medicine. We can marry the two and get clients or patients better results. So I'm really on a mission to do that and really bring awareness. Like we have the same goal. We want our clients to feel better.
That's amazing. That yeah, that's so awesome. So aligned with everything we believe as well. So talking about autoimmunity, like many of us are aware, autoimmune disease, but then people might not fully grasp like what does it mean? So what's going on in the body? Could you explain?
Yes. So autoimmune disease is when your immune system really gets confused and starts attacking either your tissues or like your myelin sheath. So it depends what your body attacks depends on the autoimmune diagnosis, if that makes sense. So, for example, like I just said, multiple sclerosis is when your body attacks the myelin sheath in your brain. When there's brain lesions caused by that attacking, it's diagnosed with MS. If your body gets confused and starts to attack your thyroid gland, that shows up as elevated thyroid antibodies, TPO or TGAB, and that's diagnosed as Hashimoto's. But what it really is, it comes back to gut health and basically just like your body being confused. So there's not one autoimmune disease that's not linked to leaky gut. I'm sure if anyone follows either one of us, they know what leaky gut is, but so the lining of your small intestine is 1 cell thick. It's supposed to look like this. And what happens when our gut gets leaky is it looks like this literally. And this is going to look weird because I'm going to stick something in here. But imagine like this is your gut on this side and this is your bloodstream on this side. This is our protective barrier. So this is supposed to protect us from undigested food particles or Advil or things that aren't supposed to be in the bloodstream. They're supposed to be absorbed by the microvilli. They're not supposed to be directly in the bloodstream. So when we have leaky gut, which can be caused by stress, environmental toxins, Advil, gluten, like zonulin, so many different things. COVID, I don't know if I can say that on Instagram. The C word can all cause leaky gut, and it looks like this. And let's just say undigested food particles can go into our bloodstream, and that can actually set off an autoimmune cascade. So leaky gut and gut health is huge in the development of autoimmune disease, but why it's so confusing for people is because it shows up differently in every single person. Sometimes it's genetic factors, like autoimmune disease can run in families. I have a lot of people that have Hashimoto's that their parents also have Hashimoto's. But just because your parents have Hashimoto's doesn't mean that you will develop Hashimoto's.
What are some most common autoimmune diseases?
I don't know for a fact what is the most common. Maybe celiac disease. Common ones that we see, Hashimoto's, I've seen multiple sclerosis. Lupus is getting increasingly common. Celiac, like I said, rheumatoid arthritis? Yeah, rheumatoid arthritis is or psoriatic arthritis. Which one is autoimmune? Maybe both.
Rheumatoid arthritis. I actually have a couple friends who developed RA after COVID. Talking about that C word.
Yeah, I don't know. Are we gonna get kicked off? I don't know if we could talk about it on Instagram.
So what is involved getting autoimmune disease diagnosed? Because I mentioned like even in the beginning of the Instagram, is there so much information out there, and then because it attacks different parts of the body, it could have common symptoms, and it's even hard for some practitioners to even diagnose that. So how should one go about it?
Nikki said type 1 diabetes is autoimmune too. Yeah. So there's 1 and 1.5. So diabetes type 1 is early onset. There's actually what they're calling 1.5. Adults are getting type 1 diabetes, which was previously pretty unheard of. It was more so type 2. So in our clinic, we do have an MD on staff, but we don't diagnose anything. So we're not diagnosing or treating disease because we're not using medicine. We're using supplements, lifestyle changes. So I don't know specifically how people should get diagnosed, but it starts with a doctor. This can be so hard, like you just said, and a really long journey because some doctors aren't looking at the right tests. For example, we see Hashimoto's all the time. Most doctors don't run TPO or TGAB antibodies. They're just not running that because the treatment, and I've asked multiple people to ask their doctors why they won't run it. And it's because they say the treatment isn't any different. Because we have to think about, and I respect doctors, they're amazing, but they work with the tools in their toolbox. What's in their toolbox? Medication and surgery. So if they can't operate or give you medication, of course they're not good. They don't have a treatment plan for you. So we look at the body so differently. You actually don't even have to have a diagnosis of autoimmune disease for us to help you, because we figure out what's happening in your body to cause that disorder or disease to actually occur. So, going to the right doctor, getting the right labs drawn, and we definitely work with our clients on, if we think or suspect Hashimoto's, they need to get those antibodies tested. And we give clients a list of what to ask their doctors for.
I love that approach. And I felt many times it's also, there isn't really the sole diagnosing. And then sometimes this kind of mission. So I have pregnancy-induced Cushing's syndrome. It only happens during pregnancy. So the only way to diagnose me is to mimic that condition, to inject hormone and mimic that condition. But that could be life-threatening, basically. So I don't actually want to have that full diagnosis, because I know it will occur. So I think there are also many people like that out there. So they might get that proper diagnosis. So if you know your symptom, that be able to approach from lifestyle and supplements and holistically, that would be so much better.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people, I know because I've talked to so many clients, but some people, they want a diagnosis so they have a treatment plan, which I think is a kind of archaic way of thinking, because we don't need in functional medicine and holistic health, we don't need a diagnosis. We obviously care about a diagnosis, but it doesn't impact what we're going to do, because we don't have a certain protocol for a certain autoimmune disease. Every single protocol is custom based on that client's labs.
Right. The only thing I guess I see there's some advantage of getting that diagnosis. If you do need the larger sort of medical treatment, your insurance can potentially cover it. That's the only thing. But it's not even going to cover it. There's
even that. My sister has multiple sclerosis, and she does get injections. We've worked together for years. She's gotten so much better, but she does take, I can't remember the immunosuppressant, but I think it's once a quarter. And it's super expensive, and it's insurance doesn't even cover it all, which is so infuriating.
It's crazy. You had a great IG post that, said being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease is a terrifying experience, but it doesn't have to be a life sentence. So what compelled you to share that thought?
So getting diagnosed with anything is really scary. Even though I had elevated thyroid antibodies, I was never diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I've been diagnosed with so many other different things, including PCOS and Lyme disease. And at the time, it was terrifying, right? When you get diagnosed with something, it's terrifying, and it can be a life sentence if you allow it to be. So mindset is a huge part of healing. We have an incredible practitioner, Brooke, on our team who works with mental, emotional, and mindset support with our clients. And we find that clients who are open to healing and not attached to their diagnosis get better results. So, I have PCOS. I never talk about it. I kind of forget sometimes. I could let it, I have Lyme disease. I never, ever talk about it. I could identify as a limey girl. I had mold illness. I could identify as a moldy. But those are just parts of my story. And of course, they bring their own challenges. I'm not belittling how awful an autoimmune condition is, because it can be so debilitating that you can't get out of bed. But we have to separate ourselves from our diagnosis, because you are not your diagnosis. You are not postpartum Cushing's disease, right? Mm-hmm. They're separate, and we can kind of put them into little boxes and then learn what we, do what we can to move out of those boxes. But I think I could go on this for hours. I don't want to take up too much time. But mindset is just a huge part of healing.
Absolutely. So why do you recommend someone who had recent diagnosed to lessen their toxin load? And what does that mean?
Okay. Good thing I have a cup right here. So we imagine our body as this cup. When we are born, it's actually a little bit, it's full of whatever toxins our mothers pass down to us in utero. We can actually pass on heavy metals, environmental toxins, mold to our babies. Sorry to my son. He probably is a little bit moldy because of me. So every single year or every single exposure, which is inevitable, we live in a very toxic world. That's not meant to scare anyone. It's just knowledge is power. When you know, you can just take some binders and eat some fiber. So like, every exposure is going to fill up your toxic bucket. If you're not pooping and if you're not sweating or detoxing, your toxic bucket is eventually going to overflow. So like everyone uses this toxic bucket theory. It's very popular in functional medicine. It's such a good analogy and representation of what happens because everyone's toxic bucket theory or everyone's toxic bucket is different. So my symptoms maybe showed up when my toxin load was here. My sister's symptoms maybe showed up here. My son, hopefully he'll never have symptoms and he'll be perfect for the rest of his life. So hopefully his toxic bucket is empty. So that's really like representing how important it is to detox from environmental and chemical exposures. We can't control, we have to breathe, right? We can't control the toxins in our environment outside. We can control what we bring into our house. So non-toxic lotion, non-toxic makeup, personal care products. For women, it's so important to make sure non-toxic tampons, literally anything that is entering your body, make sure it's non-toxic. If you can not wear tampons and just wear pads, even better. Because think about a tampon, we're absorbing whatever's in that tampon into our bloodstream. So that's going to be really important so that you can lessen your toxic burden and your body has a chance to heal. Because when it's overburdened with toxins, it's really hard to heal.
Your son is really lucky, I have to say. So he will never
He's
get
so
there.
cute. Yeah, we have, and there's really great ways to detox. That's the cool thing about, like, yes, our environment's toxic, but there's this product called Pectisol C by Dr. I believe it's Ilias. It's modified citrus pectin and it's safe to be used daily. They have a powder and a chewable and they have pills. So like my son gets modified citrus pectin a couple times a week. I take it daily. And making sure your bowels are moving. If you're not having daily bowel movements, you are recirculating toxins, you're recirculating estrogen, and you're going to feel like poop. You're not going to feel good.
This makes nutrition really important and fibers and everything. So what are some like nutrient dense food that people should incorporate into their daily diet?
So just nutrition's very specific. I don't like follow one nutrition, dogma because it depends on the person and what they can handle and where they are in life. So for example, if you just got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, you may want to try autoimmune paleo for 90 days. That's very strict. We are big fans of protein. Everyone needs protein, but even more than protein, you need to be able to digest and absorb protein so that you can get the benefits of the amino acids from protein. I really like fermented foods. Not everyone can handle fermented foods. I have sauerkraut almost every single day. I'm like obsessed with it. Fiber is really important. I don't think people eat enough fiber. Avocado, great healthy fat and fiber. If you can handle leafy greens, some people can't digest them. If you can't handle leafy greens, sauteing the greens. Chia seed pudding. I love chia seed pudding. That actually is a binder. It's a food-based binder. So it's really good at grabbing toxins and escorting them out of the body. And I'm obsessed with mold. Well, not obsessed with mold, but I've worked a lot with mold, and chia seed pudding is actually a really good way to help kids detox from mold.
Wow. Wow, these are so cool. Like such great tips. What about blood sugar? I know can regulating blood sugar be beneficial for like autoimmune conditions?
Yes, 100%. So blood sugar is really, really important. Insulin resistance is on the rise. Type 2 diabetes is on the rise. There's things that people are doing, like these GLP-1 drugs that I think they can be beneficial for some people, but you can use food as medicine. So really cutting out refined sugar. I think sugar from fruits, dates, amazing. Love fruits. I think they're wonderful, But if you have issues with blood sugar, we should not be eating like chocolate every single day. We should not be eating processed sugar or added sugar. So just really cutting back on the processed snacks, going back to whole foods is going to help a ton. And there's so many blood sugar tips. I mean, berberine is a really good supplement that you can use if you're having issues with blood sugar. Taking a shot of apple cider vinegar before meals is also good. Eating slowly, eating foods in a certain order. So there's been research about fiber first, protein, and then starch or sugar. So there's so many tips, but yes, it's anything that causes inflammation in the body can contribute or worsen or exacerbate an autoimmune disease. So if you think about blood sugar, it's causing, I mean, blood sugar itself is important, right? We need sugar. Glucose is our primary fuel source, but an excess of it is very inflammatory.
You mentioned a few labs before, but what are some labs that a person should consider if they are diagnosed with the autoimmune condition?
So if you're working with a functional medicine practitioner like us, we do take clients. So we love ordering blood work. So a full blood panel, CMP, CBC, lipids, cholesterol, full thyroid panel, homocysteine, histamine, a couple other add-on markers. We do a hair tissue mineral analysis. So that's going to measure heavy metals and minerals. Minerals are involved in literally every single metabolic process in our body. We can't live without minerals. And heavy metals can exacerbate autoimmune conditions. Organic acid testing, my favorite. My mentor and I created a course on organic acid testing because we're so obsessed with it. So this is going to measure metabolic byproducts of certain cellular metabolism. So it measures mold and yeast and fungal overgrowth, measures bacterial markers, oxalate markers, which is really important for any type of arthritis or pain in the body, because I know I'm getting off topic, but I get so excited. Oxalates combine with calcium and produce calcium oxalate crystals, which are really pretty if you Google calcium oxalate crystals, but they're very sharp. They're beautiful. Like I would buy a calcium oxalate crystal necklace, but they're very sharp and they can get lodged in our joints and create pain. So I've had clients who, mold and candida produce oxalates. A lot of people are saying, oh, like stop drinking your spinach smoothies. Well, yes, I'm not obsessed with spinach smoothies, but spinach is not the most common source of oxalates in our body that we see. We see it mold and candida. So usually when you get rid of the mold and candida overgrowth, you get rid of the oxalates and the arthritic symptoms lessen if your arthritis is caused or contributed by mold.
Wow, such good tip. Because I've heard people not eating spinach because of the oxalate, but instead they should be really looking into potential mold exposure.
Yeah, or candida. I mean, our body produces oxalates naturally. And yes, there's oxalates in our food and in our, if we're eating too much spinach, I think that can cause an issue. But almost every single lab with elevated either oxalic acid or another oxalate is from mold exposure. And they usually go down when the mold goes down. Another lab we really like is GI stool map, so assessing the microbiome. And I think those are the main ones we use. And then if someone's been exposed to mold, we like a total tox panel or a mycotoxin panel, just to see the difference, because mold is the organism and then mycotoxins are the toxins that mold produces. And they're very immunosuppressive and they cause inflammation and they can contribute to a lot of disorder and chaos in the body.
This is so comprehensive. I love it. I love it. Now, getting diagnosed, even just thinking through all these labs can be stressful. Like, what role does stress play in exacerbating symptoms of autoimmune conditions?
Huge, like a ginormous role. And it's very stressful. It's very overwhelming. Like I remember back in 2017 when I got diagnosed with PCOS. Yes, I know it's not an autoimmune disease, but there was no information given to me. The doctor, who is a man, handed me a pamphlet and was like, that's weird. You're not overweight. And I was like, what? I just didn't get it, because most PCOS is caused by insulin resistance, and most people with PCOS have trouble losing weight. And at the time I was like 115 pounds. I was way underweight. I'm 5'7". I wasn't eating enough. And it was so stressful just getting the diagnosis. So we understand. And when we work with clients, like I said, Brooke on our team works with stress management, nervous system regulation, and really just like believing in your body's ability to heal. Because if you get, and it is stressful, like there's nothing not stressful about it. Like even just navigating health in today's landscape, if you're not sick, is confusing. I mean, I don't even want to go on Instagram anymore because everyone's like, Pepsi bought Siete, they're the devil, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's too much. And I really do like education is power. And, if you know better, you can do better, but don't stress yourself out. Like, don't research every single little thing and get like hung up on every little thing and try to do everything perfectly, or you'll be too stressed. Just take it one day at a time and make the changes that are available to you. Not everyone can have a non-toxic household, and that's okay. Just really like doing what's in your power to change.
Absolutely. And also it takes body a little bit of time to respond to the changes you make. And then oftentimes we'll also see people are not being patient enough, especially when it comes to these autoimmune conditions, chronic conditions. It just takes time for your body to respond.
A very long time. I'm so glad you said that. Our program starts at 6 months for adults, and we have some people after 6 months, they're like, I'm not better. Almost everyone feels significantly better, but we can't reverse an autoimmune condition in 6 months. And I always remind people it took them, if you're 45 years old, this has been building up, the toxins have been building up in your body for 45 years. And now they're finally expressing the symptoms. But in order to get this toxic load down and lessen the symptoms, it could take years. But it's very worth it to feel better, because no matter what, when you start detoxing and eating better and handling your stress, you're just going to feel better and your body's going to function better.
Absolutely. Now, last question. I have actually 2 more questions. I have one is why do you recommend sunshine?
Oh, sunshine. Okay, so we are all vitamin D deficient. Even if we think we're not, we probably are. Vitamin D is I don't know if I could say immune system, I've already probably said it, but it's very important for our immune system. And if you think about, like, where am I? I'm in a box. I'm in a cardboard box. I work on my computer. We have artificial light in our face all day, every day. And cortisol is a very trendy topic. If you go on Instagram right now, everyone's talking about cortisol except for us. But we are on cortisol is a diurnal rhythm. So we're supposed to wake up with the sunshine, and our cortisol spikes in the morning, gets highest like 2 hours after you wake up, and then it goes down throughout the day. If we're not getting actual sunshine in our eyes, our bodies are so confused. It can mess up melatonin production. It can mess up cortisol. And like I said, if we're vitamin D deficient, it can wreak havoc on our immune system. We'll get sick often. So it's very important to go out and get sunshine. And some people do need vitamin D supplementation. Just depends on the person.
Oh my God, you just provided such wealth of information. People could still get overwhelmed. So, which I think is really important for people who can work with someone who knows what they're doing, which is you and your practice. So
yes, that's what we're doing.
We know it's a 6-month program, but tell us, how can someone work with you?
So we have programs for adults, children, and then we also do pediatrics. So the adult is 6 months, children is 4 months, and then pediatrics is 2 months. So ritterfunctionalhealth.com is where you can find us and information about our team, our programs. And we have a lot of free information on there. I have 2 webinars, one about mold, one about children's health. And then all the podcast interviews that I've been on are also linked on my website. And just I'm on social media at Nicole Ritter Health. So you can just message me. We do free discovery calls if you just want to chat about your condition and see if we can help. We'd love to help.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I want to have you back. Let's talk more about mental health and dealing with diagnosis.
Would love to.
Thank you for this is so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend.
You too.